I don't know if I explained myself better in the last video, but I'm going to just explain it better now. I feel like the government has created some sort of thing where you only get free money if you're poor. Hence, they've given people more incentive to be poor by saying things like, I've just found out like a few days ago that the only way you can get universal credit is if you have less than 16,000 in your bank. If you have more than 16,000, then you can't claim universal credit. So I will not be able to be eligible to claim um, universal credit unless, of course, I try lying and saying that I don't have money. I mean, technically I've got 18,000 in a save to buy account, which means that I can't access that money. I can't just say, oh, I want to take that money out and buy something. I can't. The only way I can take it out is if I close the account down, and that's assuming that I buy, another a property or something, and I'm hoping to buy another 10% of my sister's property, and she still doesn't want to sell yet, but she's admitting that she might not be able to save as much money as she thinks, because she might start getting hit by lots of things. She might start having to pay childcare for her third child, the child that she never sees and has nothing to do with because the father doesn't want her to have any access. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that the laws are going to prevent her from him from taking money off her, even though she's got two other kids and the father can't work because he has to look after them. And the social services are not helping in any situation. That they are actually making things far more difficult by demanding that they do regular checks and stuff like this. So they're just pissing people about. They're using this whole child protection thing, and they're just trying to make as much money out of it as possible by saying we need to do this, when really they don't need to do anything. And because they've got one child on their system, the other child is also on the system too because of the first child. The first child became on the system because the dad died, and they've refused to let the new dad of her next child have any access, so that they were keeping him in child protection foster care for as long as possible, whilst constantly threatening to put the child into adoption. And because of that, I've kind of for about a year and a half I kind of accepted that there was a very high chance that the child was going to be in foster care. When I saw how good Marco was at being a parent, it didn't make any sense to me why he was still in foster care, but so I guess I didn't feel like I needed to be a parent because of him. But yeah, he has gone through a huge amount of difficulties, court hearings, lots and lots of money being spent on solicitors and stuff, and they've easily made about £200,000 a year off this one child, because of child protection, even though this child has basically no memory of being with foster care. Like he's moved on. I was very happy seeing him because I realized, well, he's very really happy about the third child. That he loves having family and brother and sister. He does have another brother, so it's odd to think that he doesn't even know that he has another brother that's older, and been raised by the father, who's claiming that my sister has no ability to have any access into her life, but should still pay childcare, and she was paying childcare for a long time. But then when she gave birth, she stopped for a year. So I don't know the situation. It's complicated, but yeah, it's annoying to think that the problems, the social services have just been causing more and more problems, and yes, and he definitely likes having a sister, and he definitely feels like this is his family and his home, and he feels very comfortable. So it was nice to see him being so happy in this arrangement, and it's nice to see that he's blanked out the hundreds of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money that's been spent on him. He's blanked it all out, so it means absolutely nothing to him. The only thing that's really affected is the taxpayer, because I don't know how many people like Leo are in foster care right now. They're going to blank out every penny that's ever been spent on them is just going to be blanked out. So you've got people living off £2,000 a year, whilst taxpayers' money gets spent on hundreds of thousands of pounds for children under the age of 3 to be in foster care, to have regular meetings with parents that just rent off their room the second they get them back. So my sister is not a good parent. Marco is, though, so I'm very happy that Marco's in his life, and one day, Marco, he's going to learn it. It's probably going to be a long, long time before he learns the truth. and very happy to keep it as long as possible. But he sees Marco as his dad, and that's amazing because he really wants to be a dad, and he's a really good dad. But it's awful to think that social services have just been using him to basically scam the taxpayer, and they've been using him for a very long time to scam the taxpayer. And it's annoying to think that they've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on this kid for 2 years to raise him up, and this hundreds of thousands of pounds could have gone into so many different things, like even funding the whole gallery, the Birmingham Gallery. If they would have taken the money, that if they had have taken him out of foster care, you would have to wait 6 months. As soon as Marco started dating my sister, you would have had to wait 6 months to make sure that he's not just going to run off and that he is going to be there. But he should have got Leo before this new child was born, and they could have saved £200,000 on all this unnecessary stuff, and that money could have gone into something like funding the Birmingham Museum, which was basically closed throughout most of this time. And if it would have been used to fund the Birmingham Museum, just keep a few you would have given people things to do. You would the whole of Birmingham could, and anyone around who wanted to visit Birmingham, the whole of Birmingham and all the people around could have used that money to have somewhere to visit, a museum that's open. All it needed was a few salaries and a cleaner. The amount of money it would cost to keep open a museum. Right now, Birmingham Museum only has like 1 or 2 rooms open. Upstairs is closed because they can't fund the 1 or 2 people's salaries that they need to run it. It's just annoying to think that they've spent so much money on this kid, and there must be, I don't know how many kids are in this situation. There must be hundreds of thousands. There's probably 100,000 kids in Leo's situation, where there are places that the people want to adopt, but they want to make the commission off their own adoption, and for me it's almost like I lost the kid 2 years ago, and therefore I don't see the kid as mine. I don't even see the kid as being part of my family. I don't see my sister as being part of my family. I don't see my mum as being... I just want to get away from my mum and my sister, and I see this kid as just something that the social services wanted to make money off of, so that we could close down the Birmingham Museum. Instead of putting the money into Birmingham Museum, you put it into raising up 2 kids, and 1 kid. The 1 kid was in foster care, and yeah, it's amazing to think that 2 years later, all that money that got spent on him is basically means nothing because he doesn't remember anything. Aren't the government so amazing? They love to spend huge amounts of money on things that people will have no benefit, no memory of, no appreciation. You've destroyed my ability to like the human species, and I don't know. I had a vision that I was Lily. This was a very, very long time ago, probably around 2013. I had a dream that I woke up on these cornfields, and I was like a Chinese girl, and I was living in a very small flat with lots of land, and they had technology that was far more advanced than now. So there was kind of like how you get these auto trucks, auto drive things. Well, they had all the auto drive things on the farmlands, and the farmlands would you'd basically just press a button every day, and it would go off and water all the crops. It would know which paths to go down, the track when it comes to watering. So all the crops were done by machinery. You didn't need people working on them, chopping up. Most of the farmland was very organised in technology on how it's run. So all you really need is a technician every time a machine broke or something. So that's kind of all you need. And I don't know, but it's sad because this is not the life that I wanted to live. I do not want to live on a life where I'm just in a nicest small house, surrounded by hills, and the walks were nice. I think the walks would be amazing, but I think I don't know if this is what my life is going to be like, because I also think that I'm more likely to be a chemist, because I don't know anything about medicine and stuff, but it's something that I might be interested in, being a doctor. I can't be in this life because of my dyslexia and my inability to remember words and stuff, but I do like the idea of trying to work with the land to create medicines and stuff. So maybe I don't know what my life would be like as Lily, but the only vision or dream that I have that I was a Chinese person was this land, and it was kind of near the end of the time. I think it was near the end of the timeline, and we were just farmers. Like it wasn't a nice life, but I didn't understand it because that's not the life that I would want to live, but it kind of makes sense considering the life that I've had now. I hate humans. I hate the world. I hate the population. I hate people. I hate absolutely everything. And so, I have this strong desire to just want to have nothing to do with the human species. And therefore, I think if I die now and go on to become Lily, I think that would be my life. Just having absolutely nothing to do with humans, living in a complete isolation with just trees. And it's sad because it's not the life that I want. That is not the life that I want. It's the life that I want considering how awful my life has been, and how the level of hatred that I have towards humans for giving me this life, for not helping me, for, I believe, have been spying on me, my videos, watching my videos for 12 years, and yet not once trying to help me by giving me any type of funding. There's a lot of people that complain that they only make 100,000 a year, and I'm just like, how much money do you actually spend? I can understand if you're spending 100,000 a year and your rent is like 90,000 a year, hence you're only actually living off 10,000 a year. There's a lot of people that earn lots of money, but their rent is very high, or they've got a big company, but 50% of what their company makes is actually being spent on products to make the company in the first place, and the rest is going on staffing, and staffing is very, very expensive, especially in America. It's supposed to be low staffing, but you have to actually pay to have the staffing. So I understand that there's a lot of people that make huge amounts of money, but the cost that they have to spend to make that money is huge, that they're left with a fraction. And I just feel like this whole world is just designed to screw people over. You can make all this money, but then you have to spend all this money on lots of different things that you might not even have a profit at the end. This is why I wouldn't want to invest in companies, because there's a huge amount of people that they might do very well one year, and they might start saying, we're going to open up a spa and everything's going to be great, and then suddenly the gas and electricity doubles, but they can't charge double for the membership. There's a lot of spas that have closed down or have shut their jacuzzi down. Is it because they can't afford the heating of these pools? They can't afford, my membership has gone up by about £7 in the last 2 years, but the electricity has doubled over the last 2 years, after the last 3.5 years. So, can they really afford to charge these low rates when the cost of running the product has gone up more than what the membership can go up? So business is a hard thing, because you want people to spend money and you want to encourage them to spend. But if they are spending, then they're technically having a much better life, because they're spending money on going out and doing stuff and stuff. And therefore, is it right to have these systems where we'll give you free money? It's like saying, you give people some sweets, you give some kids sweets, and some people decide, well, I want to eat one sweet today and then I'm going to save the rest for tomorrow, and another kid thinks, I'm just going to eat them all now. And then the next day, one person has 6 sweets left, they've eaten 1 or 2, and the other person has none. And then you think, well, I'm not going to give this child sweets because they've already got sweets, even though these are the same sweets that they should have eaten yesterday. But these people, say you have 2 children, you give them equal amount of sweets, but only one of them eats one and the next one eats nothing. And then the next day, should you really give the one that has no sweets more sweets just because they ate that the day before? This is what I find is wrong with the benefit system right now. If there's 2 people who earn 20,000 a year, one person has spent 4,000 a year because they're trying to save up to buy a house so that they can not have to rely on rent and universal credit to pay for their rent. If someone is living off £4,000 a year and they've put this money into an account to save up so they can buy a house, but now they've suddenly got more than £16,000. Now they've got £17,000 in their account, and because they've got £17,000 and this person has got no money in their account, we're going to, or less than 16,000, we're going to give that person universal credits, more free money, more extra sweets, even though the only difference between them is one was living off next to nothing and is actually living in poverty because they're not spending any money, because they're saving, and they're saving because they want, they've got goals and they've got plans. They want money so that they can save up and do something nice with that money, like buy a house so they don't have to pay for rent. Why are you punishing people who are wanting to save money whilst rewarding people who spend money? Like, okay, the economy is important. And I know that I don't really know much about I don't know anything about economy. I don't know how to get a job. I would not know what kind of job I could get. I don't think most jobs are real. I think most jobs are fake. I see all these huge office buildings. I'm just, what the fuck are you doing in it? I have no idea. How can I know absolutely nothing about business. I do not know how there could be one building in the whole of London that could be full of offices, and yet what the fuck are you doing? I have no clue what you're doing. Just sitting playing solitaire or something. I've no clue. I have no experience with a job. Now, I think this is incredibly bad that you're made in my image, and yet Christ knows absolutely nothing about a job or business. And, if the reason why people are messed up is because they're trying to get information from me, and I can't give you any information about jobs or businesses because I know absolutely nothing, because no one's given me a business or no one's given me anything to do other than massage. Massage is the only job that I've ever had. And, okay, that was Blue Arrow at university, but that was just, you go somewhere and they send you on a coach somewhere, and then you just work at a tea and coffee joint or a burger joint or something, and then you do that. I did that for about a year. Didn't do that many jobs, probably about one or two jobs a week. But yeah, that's an experience that I had and I didn't enjoy. But yeah, when it comes to offices, I have no idea how you could fill up a building full of offices. Like, what are you doing? No clue. And I feel like this society is weird. You've got all these your ability to live is based on having a job and doing something. But I don't understand what you're actually doing. I don't know what you're doing. What if there's a building full of offices? What the fuck are you doing in these offices? Like, I have no clue. I know when I go to the shops, there's things I want to buy, but because I have no money, I don't buy anything. I don't go buy things when I go to the cinema. I wouldn't buy a drink. Even if I was thirsty, I wouldn't spend £3 on a drink. Maybe if it was an all-inclusive and you can have like 2 or 3, maybe I would. But yeah, if it's... I wouldn't do that, and because I know nothing about how to get a job, hence I don't feel like I have any right to buy things, because I have no money to buy things, because I'm always saving up. And then it's annoying to think that because I'm saving up, I now no longer qualify to be helped. It's like, you're not going to help me because I'm living in actual poverty and spending like £2,000-3,000 a year, because I know nothing about how to get a job, and I worry all the time. Well, I did worry all the time about not knowing how to get a job because I couldn't get anyone to respond to anything. I've lived a really fucked up, messed up life. And part of this fucked up, messed up life is me not knowing how to get a job, me not knowing how to make money, and therefore me feeling like I need to live off as little money as possible and spend as little money as possible. And because I've done that, I now no longer qualify for any kind of benefits, because I didn't eat my sweets on the first day. I ate them, I saved them, I put them in a bank, and now I put them in a bank. I'm now no longer qualified because I don't get any more sweets, because I've already got my sweets. And even though there are other people who are just getting more and more and more and more money and spending more money and spending more money and living a far, far, far better life than me, they get to have benefits. Why? Because they didn't keep their sweets. They didn't eat their sweets in the first day. They just keep wanting. If you see sweets as money, there's two types of people. There's some that spend, some that save up sweets and just become like a hoarder of sweets. I mean, I'm not a hoarder of money, but I'm not making any money. I don't feel like I can spend money if I'm not making it. And if the only thing I wanted to do was buy a house that was going up £40,000 each year when I was only able to make £20,000 each year, this kind of just encouraged me not to spend and not to do that. And then it's just really horrible to think how there's a benefit system that gives people lots and lots of benefits, providing they don't keep any money, and then you're just like brainwashing people into thinking that spending is good. And okay, it is, it's good. Maybe the reason why there's an office full of office buildings, in fact there's not just one, there's millions of them all over the world, maybe the reason why you have this is because you've brainwashed people into thinking that spending is good, and spending is good because that's what kind of makes the economy. And if everyone just kept their sweets and said, I'm just going to eat one a day, and okay, I won't be able to get any more tomorrow because I've still got leftover from today, but are these people happier? No, they're not. They're just angry that other people that are spending their money each day, they just get to go to the government and say, I want more. And then you've just got this system where you've got the idiots that just rely on the government, and they're spending, which is good because it's part of the economy, and you're not, if you can't buy things if you don't spend, and you can't sell things if people don't spend. So you need the spenders. So you need the spenders. But I'm miserable. I'm miserable because I don't spend. I'm miserable because I don't feel like I have any money. I'm miserable because no one's helping me. I'm miserable because I don't know anything about how to get a job or how to make money. I'm miserable because the world is ignoring me. I'm miserable because I know that I'm God, and I have to sit back and watch everyone blaspheme my name and whilst calling Jesus God when this is a pack of lies. And you can't tell these people because they'll just say that I'm the evil one for worshipping a false God when really they're worshipping you can't talk to those people. Those are people who've accepted something that's different, and I feel so angry over just so many things. I'm angry over how I can't just save up and be rewarded for saving up. Oh, I've saved up, I get to buy a house. Okay, I did do it, and I did buy a house, but I think having a second house is also more reason why you can't get benefits. And I it's like I want to be angry over the people that get benefits. But at the same time, if the only reason why you've gotten benefits is because you spend your money, and the reason why you spend your money is why there are jobs and why jobs exist, then is it a good thing? Or is it better that people don't spend, don't feel the need to work, don't feel the need to have huge, if you've got high rent, you've turned yourself into a slave. For you to pay off the mortgage, for you to pay off the rent, you need to work. And therefore having a job is important. But if the house market crashed and you no longer needed to work, would you be happier not having to work? Would you be happier not being a slave to pay off your rent? I don't know, because then you might just feel like I have no purpose. I have no reason to be. And would I have done things differently? No, I don't, because I don't feel like I have any connection with the world. I don't feel like I have any connection with people. I don't like people. I don't like how I don't know how I could have made my life better. I don't know. I think isolation is a bad thing, and I've definitely lived in isolation, and it's definitely a bad thing.